Hey there, Frey the Realtor here. If you've been wondering what the effect of the Silicon Valley Bank implosion has been on the Bay Area real estate market and the economy more in general, then guess what? You're definitely going to want to watch this video. Alright, well before I get into all that, I just first want to say thank you so much for clicking the link to watch this video. I really do appreciate it. And I will do my best to bring you tons and tons of value for the time that you're with me. But would you do me one huge favor? Would you mash that subscribe button right there and subscribe to my YouTube channel? And don't forget to click that little bell to make sure that you get a notification every time I put up a brand new, fun, fact-filled video, kind of like this one. Alright, well it seems like it's just yesterday that the Silicon Valley Bank exploded, or maybe it seems like it was forever ago that the Silicon Valley Bank imploded. And of course, there was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, and it's not the only bank that has run into issues lately. Actually, I saw in the Wall Street Journal they're now calling this a super prime bank crisis, as opposed to last time around as a subprime mortgage lending crisis. So funny how all that tends to come around. But anyway, since that happened, a lot of people have been wondering, hey, is another shoe gonna drop? Is this really the beginning of the end? Are we now going to tip into another 2008 style banking crisis, and it's going to obliterate the economy again? And well, unfortunately, it's really too soon to tell. But we do have some numbers that we can look into and see what's going on right now in the time since the Silicon Valley Bank was taken over by federal regulators. So this is a YouTube channel about real estate, so let's look at what effect it has had on the real estate market. So check out this slide right here. This slide shows pretty clearly that there really has been no impact whatsoever in the Silicon Valley Bank takeover. You can see here that pending sales actually increased after the bank was taken over. So from a real estate perspective, so far it seems that there hasn't really been much change at all. It appears to be basically business as usual, at least on the real estate front. And of course, so much of what's going on in our real estate market for the last year, especially, or maybe 2 or 3 years, who knows, maybe since forever, is tied to mortgage interest rates. And so a lot of people, I think, were expecting that with the implosion of Silicon Valley Bank, that there might be a gigantic increase in mortgage interest rates. But check out this slide here. Look at this. What do we see? Mortgage interest rates have actually been falling since the Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. And that is only good news for both real estate buyers and, of course, sellers, because lower interest rates translates into greater ability to pay lots of money for homes here in the Bay Area. This chart here shows the changes in the mortgage interest rate on a weekly basis since January of 2022. And as you can see, obviously, mortgage rates have gone up a whole ton. But since the takeover of Silicon Valley Bank, mortgage rates are actually coming down pretty nicely. And again, I always like to have that long-term perspective, so take a look at this slide. Over the long term, I think you'll have to agree that even at our current mortgage rates of about 6.4% or whatever they are today, mortgage rates still aren't really very high by historical standards. Now, if you do own some stocks, you may have noticed that when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, there was actually a pretty big drop in the market, as you can see in this slide here. But in the subsequent couple of weeks since the collapse, the market has been recovering quite nicely. Of course, some of the biggest news on the financial front since the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank was that the Federal Reserve, at its most recent meeting, decided to raise the overnight funds rate only 0.25%. They had been thinking about doing a 0.5% raise, and looking at this chart, you can see what's going on with the federal funds rate. It is certainly much increased from where it was a year ago, but still, overall, by historical standards, quite low. The thing about the real estate market is that for people to actually buy houses, they need to have jobs. And around here in the Bay Area, people need to have really good jobs. So the job market is really crucial, and there have been a lot of headlines about layoffs at big tech firms. But what does that actually meant for the local unemployment rate? Well, check out this slide here. This is the San Francisco Bay Area unemployment rate from January 2019 through the present day. And what I think is very interesting about this is that the unemployment rate today, even after the layoffs that we've had, is basically identical to what it was right before the pandemic began. And of course, no discussion these days would be complete without looking at what's going on with the consumer price index, i.e. the inflation rate, which, bear in mind, this is why the Federal Reserve acted so aggressively to raise interest rates, was to bring down the inflation. So let's take a look at that. Looking at this chart here, we can see actually that inflation has come down substantially from a high of about 8.9% in June of 2022 to about 6.1% in February of 2023. But you know, one of the most important things I think when it comes to like a strong and stable and growing real estate market is consumer sentiment. And look at this chart here. You can see that actually consumer sentiment is in fact pretty low, and I think this is one of the things that is really having the biggest drag on our local real estate market, is that a lot of people are just very, very nervous about the direction of the economy. And that, of course, is completely understandable. There have been so many shocks these days. You know, it's a miracle that even the lights turn on. Of course, for a lot of people, the lights aren't even turning on anymore, so maybe that's not a very good analogy. But listen, there have been many points in history, in fact, maybe even most points in history, where things have been very, very chaotic and unsettled. And I think by historical standards, really, overall, things seem to be going pretty well. I don't think there's any question in my mind still that over the long term, the San Francisco Bay Area is going to continue to be a wonderful place to own real estate and to live your life and do your best work ever. All right, well, listen, I hope you have enjoyed watching this video and that you got something out of it. And if you did, I'm guessing you might also enjoy some of these videos over here. These are some of the most popular videos here on my YouTube channel, so please do take a look. And please don't forget to subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you would. All right, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and please stay tuned.